Tiago, how are you? Welcome to Drag and Drop.
Thanks for the invite.
It's great to have you. It's we only just saw each other last week, so it's nice to see you again. Obviously, it's better to see you face to face, but
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you agreed to come on and share your journey, your experience, and a bit about yourself. So it'd
Mhm.
be for those who I think after last week, a lot of people might know about you, but it'd be good for those that may not know about you to have a bit of a background to yourself.
Yeah, so a very quick background. I started with OutSystems 6 years ago. Oh, no, 7 years ago. Time flies. And my initial background was not at all from IT. I started my career in the military, in the Navy, and after being 13 years in the Navy, got outside to the civil world. And yes, in that moment, I transitioned to IT, and I started only that moment to work with OutSystems. And 7 years later, here am I. So yes, my initial knowledge was on mechanical engineering. So yes, I just took the mechanical away, put it
Get the
to
engineering.
computer, IT, and digital, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously spending so long in, in the Navy, how was that
Mhm.
transition? Obviously
Mhm.
you did mechanical engineering and it's easy to kind of transition, but how was that transition for you? Kind of, 13 years is a long time
Yeah.
in a career, right? And then to kind of go sit at a desk and kind of,
Yes.
develop.
And even the concept of the military, even with the nowadays, we still see the military career has a lifetime career, right? We go to the Navy and we spend our life there serving the country. And I would say that the biggest challenge was not going to the IT world, because I think I did it on a really good timing in terms of the demand that existed on the IT. But I would say the challenge was more on the Navy side, because mostly because of this mindset that yes, so you go to the Navy, this will be your life from
Yeah,
now on. Everything around you pushes you to that
yeah,
course, right? So when I start saying that, I was thinking of leaving the Navy and moving to the IT sector. I got a lot of people that not on purpose, but
yeah,
they would push me back. Like, are you
yeah,
sure?
sure.
Because
Yeah,
you're in a very stable
yeah.
situation, and yeah, you have a salary. Not everyone can have salaries,
Mm.
so that type of behavior. So I would say that the challenge was more to help everyone around me, giving me the help to
Letting you
get out
go,
of the
yeah, letting
Navy.
you go, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. That was the biggest challenge, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah. And then, obviously, when you decided to follow a career in IT, how did
Mhm,
OutSystems come into the mix? Obviously, in Portugal it's well known, but there's so many other
mhm,
technologies that are well known, over OutSystems. How did that when did you first
mhm.
discover OutSystems and, what drew you to it?
Yes, it was a very interesting path, because when I decided to leave the Navy, I was still 4 years away of being able to leave without having to pay anything back, because we
Okay.
need to give
Yep.
8 years to the house
Well,
without the payment. So in those 4 years, my first thought was, okay, I'm a mechanical engineer. I know how to lead teams. I know how all those military skills, but I don't know anything about IT that can be a sort of a proof if I wanted to start as an IT consultant. And so my first thought is, okay, I need to take a second degree. And I start studying at night with some intervals because of the missions that
yeah, of
I
course.
did at the time. And I took computer science and management
Yeah.
in Istay in Portugal. Every year there was a sort of employee week
Hmm.
in there, where different companies would go there and they would show themselves, they would present them, what is your career here in this company, but also tech companies showed the products, and
Oh,
OutSystems was one of them. And
nice.
the first time I remember I saw a workshop of OutSystems in the university, and at the time I was having development or coding
Oh,
classes. I already knew how to code proactively when I was a kid, but when I saw that, like, my mind had that aha moment,
yeah.
because I was always very visual. The way
Yeah.
I was coding my brain, I visualize things. I visualize if I do this, then I need to do that. If that
Yeah.
is the case, then and seeing out systems representing visually what I had in my mind, I thought, this is perfect. Finally, I can start using a more visual, and then I immediately created a personal account, start using it, and yes, and I still did quite some personal projects for
Yeah.
my girlfriend at a time, and
Nice.
so on to get to know it. But yeah, I got like 2 years of personal development
Wow.
or personal things before
Yeah.
going really to professional.
Yeah, that's amazing. And obviously there's several people in the community who have transitioned from other careers, right? And they then
Hmm.
decide to be an
Yeah.
OutSystems developer. And usually getting that first job can be quite a challenge for people,
Hmm.
because
Yes.
obviously most organizations want people who can kind of come in, hit the ground running. What was that
Yeah.
experience like for you, like transitioning in, then looking, once you did leave the Navy, then trying to get your first opportunity?
Yeah. I would say that my first opportunity, it was one of those moments that are not good moments, but they allow you to grow yourself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the so I was some months in Deloitte, and
Yep.
even though I said that I wanted to go to OutSystems, they put me as a PMO, working
Mm,
as a PMO, and it was a really huge challenge for me because
mm.
my job was basically help organizing meetings, writing the minutes of meetings,
Ah, okay.
following action points.
Yeah,
And every time I try to work a bit with the client and give opinions
yeah,
like, hey, have you guys thought about
yeah,
this or that? I would be completely cut and say,
yeah,
no, 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 no. A PMO doesn't give opinions.
yeah,
You are
yeah,
here just to schedule meetings. And so it was a really heavy time for me because it
yeah.
was not the way I like to work. And so, yes, I was only 8, 9 months
Mm,
there. And then I start looking for other opportunities. The company where I worked for 5 years before the current one, it was
mm.
DevOps team. It was I think what was really cool there is that I really felt that they didn't look to me only in terms of the diploma that I had,
Yeah,
right? We had some interviews and they really were more interested in my skills and the way I talk about things, yeah, a bit more the soft skills part, of
yeah,
course, the hard skills also, but I felt that they really gave me an opportunity despite the fact that I didn't had proved skills on in the development world. Of course, I started in a more lower level.
yeah,
I started as a junior developer, so even it was a step down from going outside of the Navy and starting as a junior
yeah, of
developer.
course.
But yeah, it's just doing some steps back so that we can gain more balance to
Yeah,
jump.
of course. Yeah, of course.
So yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously, like you said, you started as a junior. You've come from kind of being somewhere quite high up for 13 years. You're
Yeah.
restarting again. The first experience isn't great, right? And then you're going in as
Hmm.
a junior, and then 7 years on, you're an architect now. You've grown kind
Hmm.
of, your career's grown really
Yeah.
well. And what were some habits and or mindsets, that you think helped you kind of accelerate you to grow? Obviously, you touched on,
Hmm.
the soft skills, and we've spoken about this before, which is, really important. But,
Yeah.
for other developers out there who, they might be stuck at a certain level of the journey of junior
Hmm.
dev, senior tech lead, whatever, what was your did you have any kind of ways of working that helped you kind of just grow?
Yes, I can name here some. One of the cool things or the coolest things that the Navy taught me is to be really challenge-driven person. So I do like challenges. I don't like to be stuck in something.
Mm,
Normally, I say to my managers or people I work with that I don't like to have a second project equal to
yeah,
the previous one. I
yeah,
always like to have something challenge
yeah,
and new. So I'm very challenged and I do
mm,
like the challenges. That is what motivates me. But at the same time, of course, that the titles are good because it comes with
yeah,
salaries.
sure,
And I also wanted to have this pressure of going back again
yeah,
to the place where I was. But in the end, we should not pursue the title. We should pursue what makes us grow and what motivates us. Because in my case, I do not know many people that are so happy working as me. I love what I do. I think that if I won the lottery tomorrow, right, I would continue doing a lot of things that I do,
Yeah,
right? Probably
yeah,
I would do other crazy things
yeah,
that currently I cannot do, but yeah, because I love what I do. I live my life. I live the daily activities that I have. So I think it's really important if we simply look at what motivates us and inside of this motivation, see how we can grow because not everyone was born to to go from a developer to a project manager,
yeah,
or not everyone was born to lead a lot of people. There are people that are more comfortable being really good in a technical job
yeah,
and not needing to not having to lead. And that's
yeah,
totally normal. So I think we need to know ourselves. We need to know what motivates us, what makes our eyes spark, and see how we can grow there. Because if we grow inside of what we like doing yeah, it will be a way faster learning curve. We will do
yeah,
it because we liked it. We like
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I
And
would
one
say that.
thing, yeah, and one thing that when I speak to a lot of people who've switched from other backgrounds into out systems, they always
Mhm.
talk about there was always, and you touched on it, there was always transferable skills, right? There's a lot of skills in a
Mhm.
lot of other jobs that you can bring to your
Yeah.
role outside of the technical ability.
Yes, and the military is a really good example.
Yeah.
I think more than say them, I can give you like two examples. One is that
Mm.
when I was in the Naval Academy in the first year, yeah, we had like all first years in everywhere. We were a bit pledged. I think that's how we say it. We're a
Yeah.
bit pledged, and but in this case by the fourth grades.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we had to do as a team, because we worked a lot as a team with the rest of the colleagues, is that we had to make lists or we had to memorize every fourth year person in terms of what are their numbers, where do they come from, what is their classes, if they are
Yeah.
engineers or marine or what,
Yeah.
and their names. And we had to do this by, yeah, all the lunch hours. We would say the list or 401,
Yeah.
this, 2, this. And if we get a mistake, we would have to write, imagine 10 papers,
Oh
10
wow.
lists in there, right? And at first, okay, this taught us we need to commit ourselves to this. We
Yeah.
need to memorize. So everyone start doing that, right? But then when people start to fail this task, because it's a lot of people, then we need to do also the same with the third year and then the second year. They start giving us the lists, right? And we would have to go to our colleagues and say, hey, man, I have 10 lists for tomorrow. Can you help me? And the guy say, yeah, give me, I will do 5. You can do 5.
Yeah.
No problem, right? So problem solved.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Perfect. Done. But then they start the second part. The second part is where you start giving to a lot of people 10 lists to do.
Yeah.
So I would go to my colleague. I would say, hey, man, I need 10 lists for tomorrow. Can you help me? And says, oh, man, I have 20 for tomorrow. Can you
Wow.
help me?
Wow.
So, and everyone had a lot of lists, right? And it was really frustrating because there was no possible solution. We couldn't do anything about it. So what we start doing was, okay, guys, what is the least worst case scenario? So who is the person that if we don't deliver the lists punishes less, right? Who is the more
Yeah.
soft fourth
Yeah.
year, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's that guy. So let's not deliver to him. Let's do the other lists. So we learn to manage with all the worst case scenarios. What is the best case scenario in all the worst ones, right? So we are going to lose in all. So let's
Yeah.
just pick the least one. And at the time I did notice, but this was like a natural team building exercise
Yeah.
that even nowadays, when everything seems that a project is out of budget,
Yeah.
there is a lot of mess with the backlog, a lot of confusion. For me, it's really easy to, okay, let's step back, let's
Yeah.
analyze the different scenarios, and let's start doing one by
Yeah.
one. It's okay. So yeah, that is an example. I think another very interesting example, and I think this is very common in the IT world, is that we feel the pressure. The more we go up, the more we feel the pressure that we need to know everything, right? For us to
Yeah.
lead a team of a front end and
Yeah.
a server side guy, we need to know everything on
Yeah.
front end, on the server side. So we need to be all knowledgeable. The first day that I left the Naval Academy, and I went to a ship to stay there to do a commission there. The guy that I was replacing, he said to me, "Hey, tomorrow I will have a medical appointment, but it's okay. Everyone in the team, they know the maintenance that they need to do. Just get to know the
Yeah.
ship." And so yeah, I did that. I was walking around the ship, and a really young guy, yeah, but I was a young guy also back then, but a more young guy than me
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
came to me. And then I found out later that he was the youngest of all. He
Wow.
only was in that ship for 1 week.
Wow.
So he came to me and he was like, hey, engineer, yeah, we have a leak in a valve, in a fire circuit valve in a generator room. And yes, I tried to open the
Mm.
castle
Yeah.
and to put some isolation. It has
Yeah.
another name,
Yeah.
isolation. It didn't work. So I think I need to open the valve to check the obturator. And then I was like, I look at him and I was like, can you tell me where, or can you show me the place? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, sure. We went there. And then he was, here is the valve. And I was like, okay, tell me what you did. I opened the castle. I was like, what is a castle? And
Yeah.
he looked at me and like, man, I'm an engineer. I studied
Yeah.
formulas and
Yeah.
mathematics. I didn't understand anything that you told me. So tell me. And it's, oh, here is the castle. Here is the isolation. Here is the operator. So the youngest technician guy
Yeah.
there in the ship had to explain to the engineer what
Yeah.
was involved and the different
Yeah.
parts of it, right? So I remember I arrived to my office and I was like, man, you depend so much on the team.
Yeah.
If they can do anything to you and you will not notice.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, they will make
Yeah.
your life hell. Yeah, for you to be comfortable with not knowing
Yeah.
things and just going with it, I think it's really important.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a thing about obviously trusting your team, right, and their ability
Hmm.
and kind of letting them shine with their skill set. That's why they're in the team.
Yeah.
And you're there to kind of just guide the ship, kind of, kind
Yes.
of
Yes.
be the person on top.
I used to say that I was a happiness manager. So I just need to ensure that my team was happy.
Yeah, exactly. And from most people that know you, they know, you have a real passion for AI.
Hmm.
You're very interested in AI. And obviously, in the last few years, the conversation around AI has really, it's everywhere, right? You have
Hmm.
to talk about it. I'm interested to know kind of where your passion came from, when it started, and kind of what made you so interested in the topic.
Yes, it's really hard for me to know really when it started because I do not remember when I first.
Mm,
I was trying to remember what was the
yeah,
first time that I heard about AI, but I cannot remember.
yeah,
But I always was, when I was a kid, I always was more on the nerd type, right? So I
mm,
always liked the technical things. I always liked to know how things work. So that was natural. And when I went to the Navy, it was a bit of a shock to me because I had to adapt myself into being more a people's person,
yeah,
to know how to read people, know how to lead. And it was really different from my persona before. That was a more technical
yeah,
person. And one of the things that it helped me was to think that in reality, people are really, really complex machines with a lot of APIs and no documentation. So
yeah,
there are some books that try to write documentation about
yeah,
people's APIs, right? So you
yeah,
should
yeah,
do this or you should, but in reality, each person has its own API with no documentation. You just need to go with it and
yeah.
try, right? And you might receive a 401 unauthorized that you need to adapt to
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it helped me a bit to move the technical view into a more human side, of course. And when I start learning about AI, it was always been interesting in neural networks and things like that, even before this Gen AI era, right? But yeah, it was, for me, it was a more a technical thing like, oh, it's a cool thing. AI, you can do this, you can do that. But when OpenAI appeared and ChatGPT appeared and generative AI appeared, for me, it was that moment where I saw, whoa, now the tables turn because now I have here a tool that is a machine, a really complex
Yeah.
algorithm that reassembles a human. So it's a
Mm,
bit the opposite of what I did with humans, right? So I start being really curious about this. I start exploring. I remember the day that I created a platform account on OpenAI,
yeah.
and then I saw API. My first thought when I saw
Yeah.
API was like systems.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I can integrate and start doing things. And that's how it started two
That's
years ago.
amazing. That's amazing. And, obviously, AI is kind of, it's everywhere now, right? And obviously even OutSystems is pushing
Mhm.
AI, in your view, what do you think is one skill every developer, going into,
Mm.
last quarter coming of 2025, but looking at, the next few years, what's one skill every developer needs today to really be successful?
Yeah, I can imagine that it's really difficult for developers nowadays, even the ones, or more to the ones that are not following the hype, because the AI is a very big world, and AI already exists in 50 years, right? The initial theory about this. And if you want to go in the area of AI, and you want to go to machine learning, deep learning, those type of things, there isn't a difference into how we are developers nowadays and how you are a machine learning
Yeah.
scientist nowadays. So that part is okay, well separated. But the problem is that Gen AI brought a transformation to the world. It's a disruptive technology, right? So a characteristic that exists from disruptions is that it's really hard to predict how to use a disruption, right? If you look at internet, for example, you cannot find a sci-fi movie before the internet that could predict the internet, right? If you go to Star Wars, really future,
Yeah.
or Star Trek and so on, you have ships, you have a lot of like state-of-the-art technology, but
Yeah.
they still use comms. They
Yeah.
still do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no one, or if it is a video, it's like a television with a
Yeah.
video,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No one could imagine that we would have social media, we would have like digital profiles, a digital life. So that's the concept of a disruption. It's something that is so disruptive that it's hard to imagine how it will be the future, right? And this Gen AI jump that happened, it is a disruption because it will change the way we will work, we will interact with AI. It's the first time that we humans develop a technology that reassembles more to a human than to a machine, right? So this brings a completely different way of seeing AI. The use cases that AI can solve cannot be use cases that machine solve.
Yeah.
They are more close to a human behavior, right? So I think that the best way for us developers nowadays to start seeing this in a better way, first of all, is to consider that, yeah, this is here to stay. Even when the hype will slow down,
Yeah.
agents, AI agents, or whatever it will be called in that time,
Yeah.
they will continue. The technology will continue. So we need to change the pragmatic way that we approach development, right? And Gen AI or the agents, it's better for us if we look at them as mini people, because the way I want to solve a problem with a colleague is different of the way that I want to solve a problem with a machine, with a computer, with programming, right? The way I need to talk with a person to expose a problem and to solve a problem, the tools that I give to a colleague for him to be able to do something, or even the initial preparation, the onboarding that I do of a person of a problem, it's completely different of how we do this with machines, right? And to work with agents, you need to see how you would give the task you want to give the agent to a person. If that person needs to have initial information to do a task, then the agent will need initial information to do a task. If the person needs to have a certain tool to be able to do it, to schedule a meeting or something, the agent will need to have also that tool, right? So it's this concept of thinking of the agents as human employees instead of machines that change a bit the way we find the use cases, right? But even in the more development way, we need to assume that AI will continue to exist, or the build of features using
Yeah.
AI will increase. And with that, there will be a change in the way we see the development, right? Machines, they are really precise. That's why they are good replacing humans in certain tasks,
Mm.
because we can trust that a machine will repeat something 10,000 times and it will give the same output,
Yeah.
right? But that doesn't happen with agents. And it's not supposed to happen with agents because they follow a statistical model based on parameters with a high complex parameter network, right? So they are more close to humans. So it's totally okay that if you give 100 times a task to an agent, he will fail in some amount of them relatively to how you will train that agent, right? So do do not expect to have a perfect system with agents. With agents, it's not about perfection, it's about efficiency. It's about being able to do a task in a more cheaper, faster way, right? That even if it fails sometimes, it's okay because the fail still compensates the use case, still compensates the cost, right? And it's a totally different mindset because you should not look into precision. It's not about precision.
Yeah. And then obviously speaking of agents, and you're involved in Agent Workbench, in that process, can you talk me through, how you feel, that will benefit OutSystems customers and even developers?
Yeah. The Agent Workbench for me, it was a really cool tool because for me personally, it didn't bring any additional capability because I already had my own set of tools built in the last 2 years that did a bit that, but it simplified really well because it uses capabilities that we cannot do it under the hood, right? So for me, it was all about the speed. So right now, I'm not using anymore the tools that I built in last years. I'm using already Agent Workbench because it accelerates. So it's very fast and very easy to start deploying agents. And probably better than telling how companies can or developers can take advantage of this, I can give you an example. Yesterday, I had a business and I did a session about OutSystems and AI, and my company is 99.995% Microsoft. And then there is a small team about systems there in the middle. So it's really hard to make us visible, but that's what I tried to do. And I really wanted to try to do something amazing that would not be possible to do with Power Platform. And so in 40 minutes of a session, what I did was I simulated that I had a company and then I had 6 head of departments that wanted to do an application for their departments in OutSystems, right? And then I brought a gigantic dice. I throw it to the audience, and they throw it back, and it hit 4. And so 4 is marketing. So each of the dice values, it had one department, right? And so during 40 minutes, I used Mentor to generate a marketing app. Then I pick that marketing app, I show it, and I said, okay, the marketing head of director wants an AI agent to create marketing campaigns. So live, at the same time that I was talking with the audience, I went to created an agent app. I've created the service section to create the marketing campaign. I connected to the agent, I deployed, then I went back to the application and created a chatbot, a visual chatbot, connected to the agent and say, hey guys, so with now it's possible to have an agent to do this. But even with that, because this resembles a bit Copilot, so I wanted to go beyond Copilot, right? So I also developed my own personal assistant. It doesn't use Agent Workbench, but it's a conversational model where you can talk with him and he talks back, right? So I also did, hey guys, it's really boring to just type things to a chatbot, right? So I want to be in my car and create a marketing campaign while driving. So let me add this agent in the agent network of my personal assistant so that my personal assistant can ask the marketing agent to create, right? And so I did all of this in 40 minutes.
Wow.
And yes, it was really impressive in the way that everyone told me that they couldn't do that in Power Apps. For sure, not in 40 minutes. But I think this is a really good example that shows the potential of Agent Workbench. Because I was really able to deploy an agent inside of a enterprise application and just start giving him small tools, small capabilities, right? So if you start looking into your enterprise applications nowadays and see, hey, what nowadays can users do? Well, they can do this, they can do that, they can do that, that. Okay, let's pick this 5 use cases that the users can do, and let's put an agent with 5 tools for each one of these use cases. And this way, an agent will have the same capabilities in my business as a user has in the website, in the web page. And this levels up the agentic world with the users. It gives the same capabilities. And that's amazing. That the speed that we can do this, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a really cool story, especially with your business being so heavy on Microsoft. It's very interesting. But one of the another announcements for around, obviously, and there's a hype around vibe coding. There's been a big hype around it, and they announced Mentor, for enterprise vibe coding. What excites you most about that capability?
And that one for me is amazing. And when I saw in one conference the next generation, for me it was really cool because I do like imagining the world like 5 years from now on,
Yeah,
right? And
okay.
start imagining in my head everything that goes around
Yeah,
and all the details and so on, right? And I think that the mentor is what will bring sci-fi and reality together. Because if you ask me, okay, what do you see OutSystems to be in 5, 10 years? I don't know, it will depend on the speed, but what do you
mm,
think it will be the future? I will see myself really well laying down on my couch, right, with a headset
yeah.
and like looking in my TV or whatever has a
Yeah,
screen, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I will say, "Hey, agent, man, I have tomorrow a meeting with the client of this factory, and yeah, I need an application that shows me like the top products that they bought. I also need to have some details about the client, investigate a bit, or show me the details
Mm,
of this client, and this, yeah. So can you do that? Oh, yes, sure. Just a second." He does, and then,
yeah.
hey, here I have a screen with this. What do you think? Okay, yeah, I don't want the table. It's hard to see. Can you instead put a chart in here? Just doing oh yes, right on, boss. Just give me a second. And then he does,
Yeah.
right? So this way that we will develop just by talking with an agent and we will
Mm,
interact with him as if we were talking with a developer
yeah.
saying, hey, do this, do that. I think this will be the future of Mentor because you will evolve the enterprise level into what it's called the apps on the go or like a one-time app, right?
Yeah.
The moment that you have AI being able to really fast build an application for a purpose, right? You don't need to spend a lot of time developing a product in 3 months to do this or that. You need to do that in your foundation, right? For example, ERP, CRMs, product management softwares. Those are important. But for the daily operations, there will not be any more this concept of, oh, we have an application that we need to build. Let's build a backlog and then study, prioritize, ask budget.
Yeah.
Things will simply go. I will be a marketing guy, so I will ask for marketing applications that I need, and
Yeah.
it will happen, right? And I think Mentor is the first step for this. And I do think that this will be the future of low code with vibe coding.
Yeah.
It will be
Amazing.
Mentor.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm,
And like you mentioned, you had the opportunity to speak at the conference, in
mm-hmm.
Lisbon, and you spoke about, MCP, and can you kind of tell me a bit about, what drew you to explore MCP and why do you think it's so relevant right
Mm-hmm.
now with OutSystems for OutSystems developers and enterprises?
Yeah. So as an architect, I love architect patterns, right? So I love to know how things communicate, how things flow to one place to another. And when I started in early days with AI agents, at the time it was not
Mm.
called AI agents. I used to call it my AI employees. But AI agents sounds better. So at that time, it was really hard to give them tools, but to
Mm.
scale those tools, right? So it really demanded from me a lot of organization in the code of how to make them like in the standard way
Yeah.
open to the tools, to the systems, right? And this makes sense because if you look at it so far, there were basically two types of agents in the world. We had the human agent, so us, right?
Mm.
And we had the machines, right? Another sort of agents. And we already have in a very standard way the types of communications between these two agents, right? So if it is human with human, we use words, we communicate, we
Yeah.
talk, right? So that's the way we integrate with ourselves. But if you want to integrate with a machine, right, you probably use screens or mechanical things, but screens, for example, web application or a mobile application. So it's a way to communication between user and the system, but also between systems. You have APIs. If a system needs to talk with another system, they use APIs, right? So between these two types of agents, there was already a standard
Yeah.
way to communicate, right? But now a third type of agent appears, an AI agent, right? And it's different from the other two. So this means that there will also need to be a standard way for the AI agents to communicate with users, for AI agents to communicate with machines, and for AI agents to communicate with other AI agents. So it's a natural process, right? And Anthropic, so the ones that created Claude,
Yeah.
they also thought about this. And so they created the MCP protocol. And when I read about this protocol, it made total sense to me because it was a way to combine agents and systems in a standard protocol that they could really easily show the capabilities that they have and start communicating, start talking with themselves, right? So for me, it was like, okay, this is perfect because finally this will be the standard way for AI agents to talk with systems. And this is one of the huge needs that all use cases need. Enterprises that develop AI agents need somehow for those AI agents to talk with their business, to talk with the systems that they have. Indeed, this is a need, and this is something that will also continue, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. And speaking of enterprises, where do you see MCP kind of having the fastest adoption inside these
Mm,
enterprises? Because I think it's a topic that is of interest to a lot of people, so
yes.
what's your view on that?
Yes, so there is a lot of companies nowadays that they have the need to integrate with other systems, right? So to integrate with external systems, but even more than integration, a lot of companies they expose their products, their features, their platforms to the outside world, to users, right? So there is already a sort of a map of integrations that a certain company with their enterprise applications give to the outside world, right? Or in terms of features on web pages or web applications or mobile applications, or in terms of APIs, right? So there is already this standard. With the appearance of AI agents in the market, we know or we expect everything points out that in the future, people will have their personal assistants. Their
Mm,
other companies will have their own AI agents, right? And so there will be the need for us to check what we give to the outside and see, okay, do we also want to open this layer of external communication to agents? And if so, okay, let's use a standard way because this way we everyone in the world talks the same language,
mm,
so we will use the same language, right? And this is the cool thing about MCP is that MCP uses, for example, tools. So if you have an MCP server in your company, one of the things that you expose to agents is the list of tools that you give. And if you ask me, oh, but what is a tool? I would simply say to you, it's an API. A
mm,
tool, it's an API. So if you already had an API that was get products with filters and things like that for other systems to request products from your catalog or something like
yeah,
that, it's really easy for you to simply connect the tool to the same API that you already had. And from that moment, also an AI agent can ask questions about your products, can say, hey, give me the products, and then do what it needs to do,
yeah,
right? And if your APIs already have a security on top of that and so on, the job is done. Authorizations are there. So you can really easily deploy an MCP server in your company and in a matter of days, open the capabilities that you already had for systems or for users, open them to also AI agents. And in the moment that you do that, your company becomes also ready for the agentic world.
yeah,
So you can also start having agents
yeah.
talking with your business and doing things on behalf of users.
And then obviously with, AI is evolving fast. Agents are only going to get more powerful. So how do you think how do you see MCP evolving over time?
Yeah, I do think that the next years that will evolve. Last year was the year of AI models. 2025 is the year of AI agents.
Yeah,
And I think that the following years will be the years of agentic architecture or even the concept of a society of AIs, right? So every business will start having agents. Everyone will start having their personal assistants, right? So what's next? How do we make the society of agents work together in the same way that we people work
yeah,
together? And one characteristic here is that you don't want to manually configure your AI agent to connect to all sorts of systems that exist in the world, right? Because we don't do that. If I want to go to a new cafe, I simply enter the cafe, I ask for the menu, and so I don't
yeah,
need to be programmed how to enter that cafe, right? So we will need also the agents to be dynamic in that way. We will need that the agents know how to discover the world in our behalf, right? And the fact that we have an MCP protocol established, it means that any agent will be able to query a system and say, hey, hello, I'm Tiago's personal assistant. Can you tell me what do you do? And the server, the MCP server says, sure, hello. Hey, we can do this, 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 and
Mm.
that. And we can give you these resources if you want. So go ahead. And the agent automatically knows the capabilities, right? So I think the biggest advantage of the MCP is that it opens the world to a dynamic agent map where every agent don't need to be programmed with all the integrations that exist in the world.
Yeah.
They can dynamically discover something, learn how to call it, and just
Yeah.
call it and do the job. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that is the biggest
Yeah.
advantage.
Yeah. And, obviously, everything's very positive and the vibe is great right now. But,
Mm,
every technology has some kind of frustration. If you
yeah.
if you had a magic wand and there was one thing that the platform doesn't have that you could have appear in the platform, what would it be?
I mean, for sure, I would say that the future mentor thing.
Yeah.
With the vision that I have. So the part of being seated in my couch and talking to the agent and just doing applications on the go. I think that's the really cool sci-fi moment,
Mm.
like Minority Report when we see Tom
Yeah.
Cruise
Yeah.
doing those things, right? This will be even cooler
Yeah,
because we'll
that's
be
cool.
seated in our couch
Yeah.
just talking. Yeah, I would say that. I would say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you've been in the low code space for 7 years, Portugal, now Netherlands,
Mhm.
in your experience, how have you seen the low code market evolve?
Mm.
Obviously you've gone from Portugal, which, is systems is
Yeah.
so well known, and the Netherlands, which is also very well adopted. How's it been for you personally?
Yeah. To be honest, for example, I never worked with Mendix. I've
Yeah.
worked with Power Platform just to
Mm.
try some things with Power Automate. Oh, yes, 99.9% of the time that I low coded, it was without systems
Yeah.
or almost 100%. So yes, of course, my opinion might be a bit biased, but what I can say for what I know about OutSystems is that I do think that they are in a really good path right now. So
Mm.
we might see OutSystems some years ago, and we might consider are they going in the correct path or
Yeah.
with the correct speed? And the way they reinvented themselves in this last years, even before Gen AI, they were
Yeah.
already talking about Mentor.
Yeah.
So the way they reinvent themselves to start to become what they called an AI powered low code platform,
Yeah.
right? I think it's really clever on them because they are going in a correct pace. They are deploying things. They are
Yeah.
implementing AI features, not only for us developers to do it, but even in the platform, all
Yeah.
the AI support that they are giving inside of it. I think that OutSystems is right now really well positioned to change completely the way we will do low code in the future with
Yeah.
AI. So the
Yeah.
combination, I think right now, I cannot talk about the others, but I
Yeah.
know that without systems, they are going really, really well. I'm really happy to be right now an OutSystems
Yeah. Yeah.
developer
Definitely.
or architect. Yeah.
And
It's a really good
obviously,
time to start.
yeah, great time, right? And I agree with everything you said. And obviously, there's still always skeptics around, and
Hmm.
I'd like to know, kind of, finally, what would be kind of your message to people who are still skeptical of low code?
Yeah, no, one of the things that I hear more times about it is that typical, oh, you guys are not developers. You are dragging things. You are
Yeah,
not coding, right? And normally the metaphor that I use or the comparison that I use here is that when the back in the old days when the guys were uh, coding welding ships,
yeah,
right? And then some guy invented assembly to be used in microships who has a way of going, and the guys would be, hey man, that's not developing. The developing is
yeah,
welding things and so on. And the guy, okay, but I will continue to do the assembly thing,
yeah,
right? And then some higher languages start appearing, right? And then the assembly developers would go, hey, you see, guys, you are not developing. The real developers use assembly, right? So
yeah,
that is the real, what real man
yeah,
used to code back in the days, right? And you continue evolving, right? And for me, low code is just another layer on top of a development language, right? Instead of you spending time writing code, you still code, but you code in a visual way. It's like instead of you building pieces of things for you to combine them, you buy a Lego set and then
mm,
you pick the Lego set and you say, okay, what do I want to build? And then you
mm,
pick this piece and you
yeah,
put this, and you start building on top of that. So I really think that low code in this way, it's exactly the same as developing applications with high code, but in a more faster, more easy, and a more maintainable way, because it's easier for you to see what you are doing. But even if you are not in that part of coding, and you do not convince
Yeah.
me with the coding part, just remember that we have vibe coding in the corner coming up in the world, right?
Yeah.
And right now, the vibe coding tools that exist in the market, they are teaching agents to code on a low level, code
Yeah.
the JavaScript,
Yeah.
C Sharp, or Python, or so
Mhm.
they are developing lines of codes, right? And when you go to an enterprise level, right, you don't expect I do not expect myself as an architect to have to go to a company and start coding from scratch,
Yeah.
start putting all the database
Mm.
and creating the connectors. I'm an architect. I need to be more
Yeah.
on a broader level. I need to see how things connect with each other, business and so on, right? And vibe coding will also have to do this. If we want vibe coding to be used to create enterprise grade applications, we also need to have this AI architect that can look in a broader way
Yeah.
and combine the pieces, right? So low code is that. Low code is combining pieces, is not about generating small pieces of code, but already having small packages that can be combined, right? And because of that, I'm absolutely sure that low code will completely shift the way we do vibe coding. The
Yeah.
combination of those two will accelerate completely the future of development. So if you don't like low code, but you like AI, I'm sorry, but I think you will have to have low code by a second by an how to say like the two things that come together.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
you
got no
cannot
choice. Yeah.
run away
Exactly.
from
Yeah.
low code.
You can't
Yes,
have
they
one
will
without the
come.
other, right? Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Amazing, Tiago. Well, look, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time, sharing your experience, all your knowledge. I think it'd be great to speak again in the future as things
Mm,
evolve.
for
And
sure.
you're, like you said, you're an AI geek or not, or just a geek in general, right? And hopefully, maybe when we speak, you will be sitting on the couch doing demands. You know, who knows, right? But I
You
really
will be
appreciate
talking
it.
to my agent.
Yeah. But no,
Yes,
I
I
really
don't know,
appreciate it.
baby.
I really
It was
appreciate
a
it. Great
pleasure.
to speak
Thanks
to
a
you.
lot, Feroz.
And we'll keep in touch.
Yes, for sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Tiago.